For Creamer Media's Polity, I am Shannon de Rehove. King David High School Linksfield Principal Marc Falconer joins me to talk about his book, Notes from a Headmaster's Desk. Your book, Notes from a Headmaster's Desk, is a compilation of your reflections as the first non-Jewish headmaster of King David's High School in Linksfield. What inspired you to write a book on this?
I actually wasn't inspired to write a book. It was a series of newsletters, and I happened to have a couple of parents who thought that it would be a good idea to have it as a more permanent record. So I was visited by Pan Macmillan, and it was a dream situation. It was completely unplanned.
South Africa's public education system is in disarray. Why, in your opinion, is it so vitally important for us to get education right?
I think that education is really the most important thing. I know that the GDP of South African spend is 6.1% on education, and for whatever reason we still can't get it right. The sad truth is that of every 100 kids that start school, only 50 of them actually manage to finish it. Of those 50, there's probably about 40 who matriculate. Of the 40 who matriculate, 12 of them have university entrance. Of those 12 who do go to university, most of them are functionally illiterate and innumerate. And 6 of them will be accepted to university. And of those 6, only 2 will eventually qualify with a degree. And it must be the worst statistics in the world. We are currently the worst performing country in maths, science, and literacy. It affects employment, of course. It affects crime. It affects economic growth. It affects employment possibilities. It affects every single area of our country, and we have to get it right.
You state that many educators believe that there are several ways of rethinking our model of education. Please elaborate on this, specifically providing ideas for public schools.
Well, I mean, I don't think the model is any different for public schools than it is for private schools. I mean, I think the model that private schools are using, which is a very financially burdensome model, and works on a class allocation that is unsustainable. That you just keep paying teachers more and more and more, and hoping that you're going to be able to attract people. The truth is, as far as I can see, is that teachers can only be attracted if you are going to be improving their social status by getting people who are passionate and committed, people who are as passionate as doctors and as lawyers and as accountants and actuaries. And to do that, I think you have to be recruiting the best people, and I think we have to change the model so that we work more, use technology in a much more intelligent way to deliver texts, to provide teaching resources, to provide access to knowledge, because teachers don't do that. Teachers are now their primary job is to mediate that information, to allow children to develop critical thinking and higher order thinking skills. And until we move to that model, we move away from teachers being the providers of knowledge and more towards teachers being highly trained, highly qualified, highly passionate professionals, paid the best, as you know, in comparison to other professions, and recruited from the best, that we will never ever solve the real deep educational problems, not just in our country but in the world generally, but particularly in our country.
King David High School is a private school and will naturally encounter different problems to those of public schools. What are some of the challenges facing private schooling in South Africa?
Well, I think private schooling maybe does have some different challenges. I mean, I think that we work with one of the tragic things, I think, in education as in South Africa generally, is that we probably are we have the biggest discrepancy between the rich and the poor, and I think that discrepancy is only set to become more apparent because of the educational divide. So you have not only private schools, but you have top performing schools, and you have mediocre or low performing schools, and they are producing pupils who are going to just simply increase the divide, and there's no bridging of that. And until we do bridge that, I think the educational system is doomed to be fraught at the best. So I think that it's not okay just to say private schools are okay. I mean, it's true that we probably have more money than some state schools, but it doesn't mean that the problems don't exist, and it doesn't mean they're not our problems.
Your book reminds us to always keep a sense of humour. What are some of the more humorous aspects of your job as a headmaster?
I'm so glad you asked. This has been a very dry and we were getting quite serious about stuff. I think that one of the most privileged positions to be in is to be working with children. They are the ones who are going to be solving the climate change problems. They are the ones who are going to be solving a shortage of waters. They're going to be the ones who are going to be negotiating settlements in troubled areas of the world. So children are, I think, optimistic by nature. They look forward. They look to the future. They're not burdened with the same troubles that many adults are, and they get up to some really hilarious things. And it's a privilege to be. It really is a privilege to be part of the lives of young people who are in the process of creating a new world.
You believe that as much as we worry about education in South Africa, ultimately our children will turn out just fine. What gives you such hope in their resilience?
Because what is the alternative? I mean, one can't believe that the world is going to end and that it'll be a disaster. I mean, I think that that there will be solutions. There are solutions, and I think that children will find them. I mean, the children that we are educating now will be the people who will have to find solutions to these problems, because if they don't, it will, the world can't carry on in the way that it is. So we have to find solutions, and they will, and we always have. The danger is to project our own pain, our own anxiety, our own damage, our own woundedness onto children, and to see our problems being reflected in them. And it's not always the case. I mean, I know that there are some very serious problems that children have, but I think for the most part, children are optimistic and resilient, and they are the future. And I think teaching is a wonderful profession, and I would like to see the best of South African youth going into teaching, for us to engage with the problems and to I suppose understand that whatever else we do, we have to get teaching right.
That was Marc Falconer, Headmaster of King David High School, Linksfield, talking about his book, Notes from a Headmaster's Desk.